It's the sip and sketch. What are these hands doing with that tape? They're gonna put some tape down on the... Put some tape down. Okay, there we go. We're getting there. Welcome, dear Doodlebugs. My name is Mary Doodles, and this is a bit of a sip and sketch pre-recorded. Every Sunday this last season, I've been doing a live stream called the Sip and Sketch, where I sip on some tasty coffee and do a little drawing for you. However, right now I'm in the middle of a season break, so we're pre-recording this stuff. Next week, there will be another video much like this. So if you have any questions you want to ask about art, creativity, tips, life, the universe, anything, go ahead and leave a comment or question below, and I'll be doing a little Q&A for you next week. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Mary Doodles. I do drawings and paintings all over the place at Mary Doodles. My YouTube channel here has a whole collection of painting videos, time-lapsed ones, some animatic, some animations, some stories, some tutorials. Take a look around, poke it, touch everything here. And you can find me on Patreon if you want to support this channel and the arts. I have a Teespring shop that should be linked here. All you doodlebugs from the Sip and Sketch might enjoy the Sip and Sketch mug that I have up in my shop. I got the fluorescent yellow one. It is lovely. It has enhanced my coffee experience. So there's that. And let's talk about what am I doing? I'm petting the paper with a brush. So this is, let's roll it back. All the way back in January 2021. New year, everyone's having fun. And I decided I was going to do this daily painting challenge. Anytime you're doing a daily challenge, a daily creative challenge, it helps to have structure, have a system, a way of doing it. So I decided right away that I was going to cut up paper into 5-inch by 7-inch pieces and have them at the ready. So every day I would do my morning routine, make my coffee, sit down and paint. Specifically, I would sit down and tape down the paper, as you saw me do, and then do a watercolor wash, let that dry, come back to it, finish the painting. That's it. I had in a couple cases, I had an idea of what I wanted to make, but for the most part, I just started at this point. I didn't necessarily even know what colors I would want until the moment I sat down. And I found that ultimately, this was all kind of set up to just pave the way and make it easy to do the thing. Like, take the thought out of it. If you're thinking about it, you're thinking too much. That's what I've found. I am a procrastinator. I will come up with far more. Everything will be way more important than the actual thing that I want to do. And I know I'm not alone in this. This is a phenomenon that a lot of creative people experience. If you want to be a musician, if your passion in life is to play music, you will find any excuse you can to not play music. What is that? That is madness. And yet we deal with it all the time. And so fun fact, I just got myself a book this last week. It's a book I'm familiar with, and I used to have it in my former household in a different life back when we were happy. And it's called The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. You may have heard of it. Reading the cover, it's The War of Art. Break through the blocks and win your inner creative battles. I would highly recommend this book to anyone who wants to get into a creative practice professionally or as a hobby. It doesn't have to be painting. It could be writing. It could be music. But in this book, Steven Pressfield really circles, highlights, double underlines the word resistance and what that is. And it's that thing that stops you from starting. It gets in the way of you finishing the thing. Like, what is that resistance? And how can you outsmart it? How can you work around it? So this book is like full of great knowledge tips, and if you're anything like me, you'll read it and be like, I feel seen, and you'll be crying on the toilet for an hour. There's a link in the description below to where you can find it. So I feel like I've been dealing with resistance for quite some time now. And what I loved about doing this daily painting challenge was that it kind of helped me break through that and build a routine for myself that really worked and helped me, pump out 31 paintings, like a hamster mommy, just art, 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 art. So there you go. I'm noticing on the screen, if you're watching, like, why is she just delicately petting the paper with a tiny brush? I'm laying down water for the next layer of the painting to kind of put the watercolor bleed in. You'll see. It's a thing. So back to like the structure and the process. I had like the process I described. I set that up just so that I didn't have to think about what I was going to be making. And I think that like it had two effects. First off, it led to me creating a cohesive collection of paintings, which is amazing. I am one of those people who I think I was conditioned very early on to think that creativity means clever. It means coming up with something new every time. That's like a thing that I really have struggled with. I always try to go from A to Z when sometimes A to B is fine, and then back to A, and then B, A, B, A, B, C, the bridge, and then back to B, your chorus. Music is, if you do music, you understand patterns are such a huge part of it, and repetition. So for me, having this repetitive process really it gave me a foundation to cling to so that like I was able to like get through this challenge, even though toward the end of the month, I went out of town for a week, and I can see it. It's right at the point where making these daily paintings suddenly became difficult to keep up with. Go figure. The routine got shaken up. And then I was able to come up with excuses. I guess I don't have to do this the way I'd been doing it successfully for the last couple of weeks. Maybe I'll wing it. Oh, it wasn't as successful? Huh, weird. Funny how that will work. But yeah, I think I have had a bit of a bias against setting up systems like this in the past. Partially, I think it's out of, like I said, that conditioning, that think outside the box mentality, and confusing that with that being the way I need to operate 100% of the time. There is a think outside the box moment. But in order to think outside the box needs to exist, if that makes any sense. You can't think outside the box if there is no box. Then you're just floating in a void. Get out of the void. Charlie, get out of the void. Do your dishes. You got to avoid the void. And you got to resist the resistance. And this has been the Sip and Sketch moral of the story. That was a bit of a tangent. So yeah, and it's like they say where you got to learn the rules to break the rules. I feel like you got to build a system to launch you into that creative sphere. So for me, this worked out nicely. Especially when I was doing the daily painting, to not only have a time and a place where I sat down, I started my work, but that's kind of outlined in The War of Art, the idea of if you show up to the same time every day, same time, same place, and commit to what you're going to do, whatever that is, whether you're drawing, whether you're writing or practicing music or juggling. I learned to juggle during quarantine, and that took discipline. That took a lot of discipline. I got the discipline of a juggler. And if you show up to the same time, same place, that muse will find you. That inspiration will find you. It will start to, the habit will become ingrained and you can access that creativity a little more quickly. That's the idea. That's the theory. And I've experienced that. For me, I had to take this to the next level of same time, same place, same process. So tape down the paper, do a wash, let it dry, do another layer, keep going, keep moving, keep flowing. Don't let any opportunity to stop get in your way. Because the moment I stop, then I start getting into talking myself out of what I'm doing. I'm a mule. I'm pretty much a mule. Once I sit down, I'm not getting up. So with this process, I think what worked for me was it was simple. It was fun. And having that structure just kind of allowed me to almost be more creative and explore more, like in taping down the edges, which I did that for two reasons. Partially because it kind of keeps the paper from warping, but not really. I don't know. I just ignore the warping. I'm lazy. But it also kind of creates an edge to each piece, which looks tidy and fun. And then once I get to the wash part, then it's just whatever color I feel like that day. And if I'm at a loss, then I would look to the day before. That was the thing. I was like making up all these like little rules or guides as I went. So like if I was at a loss for the wash and that color, well then what did I do the previous day? Do the same thing. See where that goes. And if I had no idea, like once the first layer dries, then I would do the second layer. And that's how you get the crisp, clean lines. One of the most common questions I get about watercolor is how do you get your lines so crisp and tidy? And to that I say, you just gotta let the first layer dry. If you're painting on anything that's wet or even just damp, the paint's going to feather out and you get the fuzziness, the softness, which can be lovely if that's what you're going through. But if you want the clean line, you just got to let everything dry out, which really I found was a benefit with these paintings, because then it would give me time to take a break, walk the dog, maybe get something to eat, and then come back. And at that point, I will have meditated a little bit, and the next step almost like comes to you, where it's like, ooh, I want to do a dragon here, or let's try some mushrooms today. Let's try painting some mushrooms today, kids. So one thing that I did have in my back pocket to help out was this little kitty cat guy. And I was trying to think of like, what am I calling this tool? Is it like a totem or a key? Like this cat is a key to the next step. So once I get past the wash and everything's dried, if I still have no idea as to what to paint, I have this key. And that is this little black cat. It's a simple design. It's mostly shapes. It's just an exercise in painting shapes. And it's easily repeatable. And I can use that as the key to the next step of the painting. If I have no idea what I'm going to make next, I do this cat painting. And then we go from there. In this case, it was this cat. He's kind of floating through the air. I really like the gem color scheme and the way it laid out. It felt like sky and sunset, like some magical world. So then I started doing these trees. Trees are also kind of a key for me because they're very easy to do. Leafless trees, too, to be specific. I'm actually looking out my window right now. We're in early spring. It's the first thaw of the year. The geese are coming back. It's crazy. And all the trees are bare, kind of like this, which I love because it's one of the easiest things for me to paint and draw. It's just patterns and lines, and it almost looks like little brain nervous system fractals. Anyway, having these keys to fall back on. I'm going to use the term fall back on, maybe as a crutch even. That just allows me to keep the flow going for this exercise. And this was an exercise. This was not meant to last. It's why I only did this painting challenge for 31 days. Because I have found a part of the process too that is essential is the rest point. And knowing when to push and when to pull back. So I did this 31-day challenge and then kind of like eased up on myself afterwards. But at the end of it, I kind of found I had two things. I had this structure that really helped me to combat that resistance that you hit when you first sit down to make something. Took out all the doubt. I knew the page size. My pages were cut out ahead of time. I wasn't sitting down and being like, what do I feel like making today? Do I feel like doing a large painting or a small painting? Because then that would slow me down and I'd be like, well, I want to do a small painting, but then I got to cut it. So I have to walk all the way across the room and get the paper. Oh, and then I have to cut the paper. And it's so awful. And can you tell what century I was born into? It's obvious. These things aren't big enough to stop a person in theory. It doesn't make sense, but in practice it does. We get in our heads about things and we'll grab for those little excuses to avoid doing the thing we love doing. So yeah, creating the process made everything very thoughtless and lovely. And by the end of the 31 days, I was looking at all these little paintings that I'd made, and they're a cohesive collection. They kind of look alike, especially with like the little rules, like the practice of, well, if I don't know what colors I want to use today, I'll just repeat yesterday's. That would create like these waves of several paintings that look very similar, but they're not quite the same, which is, a set, a collection. And I am, I feel like the box shouldn't exist sometimes. I have difficulty with putting things together as a collection. So I think this really did help me out with that. So I found like if you're looking for a project, and I always recommend that because just starting and like practicing can be like difficult. But if you have an end game that you're working toward, whether it's, I want to write an episode of a comic book that I've had in my head forever, just have that like end game, that final product, the target that really helps to motivate you toward the thing. And so this was, by the end of this, I would have 31 paintings, and I didn't quite realize then, as I do now, that they're a collection of paintings. And then within that, there's little sub collections that I can branch off on. I branch out to branches, painting branches. It's all branch paintings. So yeah, I hope those are some helpful tips for you, or that, maybe it gives you some ideas as to how you can overcome that thing you're procrastinating on. What are we procrastinating on today? Leave a comment. What are you've just been meaning to do? You've been meaning to do it. You want to do it. And I know you're serious about doing it. It's just been a little difficult to get started. What is that project? Name that project. And how are you going to get around that? Or what systems have you set up that work for you? Do you have any systems of your own that you've been using for a while, or you just tried, that really helps out? I have, since doing this challenge, I've toned things back. My daily routine now is I'll wake up, I'll do my stretching and morning activities, then I'll make some coffee, sit down, set the timer for 10 minutes. It's a low bar, but 10 minutes with my pen and my sketchbook and my pencils. I got like a bunch of materials around me. And for 10 minutes, I am active. Even if I'm just drawing butts or just this little cat, I've got a lot of little keys that I go to when I'm at a loss as to what I want to do. But my hands are moving over the page for 10 minutes. And when that timer goes off, I can choose to keep going if I'm feeling the flow, or I can stop. And I'm good, and I'm done, and I did the thing. Now I can move on to that so important task of watering the plants that I was going to use to procrastinate doing this drawing practice. So that's been working really well for me. It's been a bit of a busy time, so I know how you feel. If you have kids, if you got a family and a big job. I'm a dog mom. I completely understand. I have to take my dog outside, and she's a cattle dog. She's clever. She will come. She ran over to me. I was setting up for this, and she is the biggest point of resistance. She is resistance embodied because she hears me setting up, and she's like, oh, no, 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 no. There's sticks to be thrown. And she was coming up to me, jabbing me in the leg with her nose, then looking at me real long and hard, straight into my eyes, right down my soul. And then she goes over to my coat, and she jabs the coat with her nose, and then looks at me real long and hard. And then she goes to the door, and she gazes whimsically out the door. And then she looks at me real long and hard. And I can hear her say in my head, she's in my head now. We've been quarantined together for almost a year now. And in my head, I hear her say, but why? Why create when we can go outside and destroy sticks? And I say, no, you little demon. I know what you're up to. My young ward, get over here. Let me rub your belly. I love you. Well, give me 10 minutes. That's why the bar is so low. So if, I think like a tip that's like really helped me out, because I'm practically a mother of twins who's working a full-time job and needs to carve out time. No, if you're somebody who is low on time, then like make it a low bar, and you can find 10 minutes out of your day to practice a little something. It might not feel like enough, but take it from me. I learned to juggle this summer, and I maybe spent 10 minutes a day on it, and it took me 2 weeks, which was shocking. I mean, I'm not good, but it took me like 2 weeks to get that third ball in there and get a rhythm. Wait till my juggling podcast comes out. I tell you what, since when was I a person who says, I'll tell you what? That's a new one. That's a new development. Okay. Well, I learned to juggle, and I didn't dedicate hours to it every day. Just a little bit of time. Just a little bit is enough. Less is more. If the bar is too high, especially I've found for me, if it's too high, then I will procrastinate on it and like put it off to the end of the day. So procrastination, that's my thing. I will find far more important tasks, which do exist, to be fair, but I'm also an artist. I've been doing this professionally now for years, almost a decade. Oh my goodness, Doodlebugs. It's gonna be 10 years since I've started YouTube. This spring, June 6th is the channel birthday. That was the anniversary of posting my first video. That wasn't a coming soon video. So yeah, after all this time, and like being a professional artist, I still will have to, I catch myself having to be convinced that it's worth my time to sit down and practice drawing, or to just draw, or to create for fun. Like I don't know what it is. There's some puritanical programming embedded deep in me that says, but you know what you really need to do is something that you hate. Do some sort of toil and labor that you don't like and don't want to do, and isn't as important as your dream, which is like hanging out right here in front of you. You merely need to reach out and grab it. And then I'm like, voice in my head, listen, I get what you're saying. You're being a little harsh about it. We can be kinder to ourselves. We can be very kind to ourselves, especially at this time, about the goals we're setting for ourselves and how we're meeting them. And, have a little unconditional love for you and the effort that you've been putting out there so far, because you're doing great. You're here. You're working it. You're wearing it. I love what is happening with the top of your head right now. So that's a little bit on a process that I've been using, and how structure has allowed me to overcome resistance forever and ever. The end. The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. If you want to get it, I'll put a link in the description to where you can find that. And just want to remind you that next week I will be doing another one of these videos. So leave your Q&A questions in the comment section. I will your cues. And if you want to share your own creative rituals or practices that have helped you out, I would love to see what you guys are up to. And I'm sure it would help someone else out there. March 21st, 2021, the Sip and Sketch Live will return here on YouTube. That's a Sunday at 2 p.m. Central Time. Also, I'm, like I said, I'm putting together the next season of content and programming. So I will be announcing when stuff is coming out on my Instagram channel page in the stories. The stories is where I will be hanging out. I've been a little dark lately. This is the part where I peel the tape off and it looks so satisfying. I love peeling the tape off the painting at the end. What was I saying? I'm so distracted by paint and tape and peeling and ooh. Anyway, yes, I have been working on a handful of projects. It kind of felt like I'd been in a creative desert for months, and then all of a sudden everything hits at once. You know how that is. So I'm really excited. I can't wait to share with you what I'm working on. I'm doing a couple book designs, like a couple ideas coming up simultaneously. One's a collaboration that I am absolutely in love with. It's a gas. That's a little hint. So I'll be sharing with you what's coming up with that around the corner, and some events are already popping up in the spring. So follow me at Mary Doodles to keep up with all that good stuff. And I hope you enjoy this video, dear Doodlebugs. Take care.